You don't need a RED camera or a gimbal to get cinematic footage. You just need this editing process. And if your camera's even slightly better than a potato, you're invited. So here's the plan, right? I'm gonna play you this quick 30-second Land Rover Defender spec ad I cut inside of DaVinci Resolve. Then I'll show you the raw clips so that
we can cringe together and
talk about what makes those raw clips have so much potential to turn into something so impactful. But I'll break down how exactly we turned meh into something that you can actually use inside of DaVinci Resolve with 6 simple ingredients that you can steal. But ad first, then the receipts.
Every journey leaves its mark. The road changes, the weather shifts, but the Defender, it endures. Built to take on the unknown, forged in mud, rain, and time. From city streets to mountain passes, it doesn't follow the path, it defines it. Wherever the drive takes you, the Defender is already there. Land Rover Defender, always along for the ride.
So that was the finished ad. Now I'm going to show you that raw footage. This is it. Very simple, very flat. And it looks this way in terms of like the black bars on the side because this was shot in open gate, but very flat. It's a lot of light. There's handheld bumps, a lot of handheld bumps you can see here. And there's just empty roads that's doing their best impression of a parking lot. It's not wrong, it's just unfinished. This shot's pretty cool, but it's just not very polished, you know? So here's the thing about editing. Editing is permissible power. When someone chooses to watch, you're allowed to steer what they feel responsibly. You can sell a product, you can entertain, or both. And in doing this process, tools help, but decisions drive. Pun intended. And by the way, I'm Ethan. I've done millions of views across the various channels that I've made content for, so I kind of know what I'm doing in this space. So let's rebuild this ad with those 6 simple ingredients, starting with just the frame itself. So in this very uncinematic view of things, there's one thing that's wrong immediately. It's the aspect ratio. It's the frame in which we see the footage. We want it to look widescreen and very horizontal. It makes it just feel more cinematic. It narrows attention away from the boring sky. It adds that film language scale. So I'm going to show you the most true and accurate way of doing this. We're going to set a 2.76 to 1 aspect ratio for our footage here. And in a 4K timeline, that looks like 3840 by 1390. So let's go into our timeline settings and change that. 3840 by 1390. Looks the same here as well. We'll press OK. Another thing you want to do if you want to make it fit the entire frame right away, go back in your timeline settings and here, set this to scale frame with crop, and under output, do the same thing. Scale full frame with crop, OK, and then it automatically fills your frame just like that. So there, your aspect ratio is done. You can immediately see the difference. It just looks a lot better. So framing set, but now for the heavy lifter. It's the color that makes this feel expensive. So I've gone ahead and opened up the color page and took the exact node tree that I was using before, and we're going to break it down what exactly it is. So in every node tree, just depending on what camera it was shot in, you want a color space transform to something that's a little easier to work in. In this case, I'm doing DaVinci wide gamut. So you can see here in my initial node, I have color space transform set up, shot this in Blackmagic Film Generation 5. So I set that Video Gen 5, Film Gen 5, DaVinci wide gamut, DaVinci intermediate, and everything that happens between this node and this node, which is the end of that, all of this is my color transformation here. And it's happening in a bigger color profile than what I have access to in others, such as the profile that it was shot of straight out of camera. And then after this node, it's picking up the wide gamut and the intermediate in between, and it's transforming everything into Rec 709. So everything comes in here, and this node transforms it into Rec 709. But let's go over what those things are in the between. So this node is actually my white balance. I went to right click here, change my gamma to linear. And when you set your gamma to linear that way, you can drag the gain wheel around and it changes your white balance a little less non-destructively than just doing the regular method here. So this is the white balance. You can see the difference it makes here. It feels a little warmer. It feels a little cozier. Set white balance on our node label there. All this node is just the detail node. So it's extremely subtle, and I'm not even sure if you're going to be able to see it on YouTube. Just adds a tiny little bit of detail to the footage here. This node is actually a DCTL that I use. It's the Iridescent Color Saturator version 2, and it's subtractive saturation that just has a very cinematic feel, more so than just the regular saturation slider here. Leave a comment if you want to see a video about this DCTL. I use this DCTL in a lot of my color builds, and it's very rich, it's very cinematic, and I use it all the time. So that's what I'm using here. I just upped the saturation quite a bit on this. This is the before and after. It again gives it more of a warm look here just because it's taking colors that are already warm, making it a little warmer. All this node is me bringing down my contrast a little bit. So I turn it off and the contrast goes up. I turn it down, it comes down ever so slightly. That's the thing about color grading is just a lot of very tiny little details added on top of each other. It's not a lot of big changes all at once. And this node is just simply a power window that selects this area here and turns down the highlights. You can see it turns down the highlights outside of the selected area, leaving this area glowing a little bit more in the middle. It makes kind of like a natural vignette. Here's the color space transform. Here is additional vignette that I added on top. You can see the difference that makes there. It sort of frames everything in the picture a little bit better. And I added a lens blur here to blur everything that's not in the center, right in that glowing frame. So you could definitely see it up here in the corners when I turn on and off. Again, it's not a lot, but it's enough to draw your eye to the center of the frame here, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Now, this isn't a color grading tutorial. I'm not going to walk through every single one of these clips and show you exactly what I did, but I did want to give you an idea of what I'm going through and doing here, messing with the white balance, the saturation, the contrast, and adding some effects on top of that, such as the lens blur and the vignette, to kind of get the effect that I want to look. And you just apply this same thing to all of these clips here. Again, not a color grading tutorial. We can do this in another video if you'd like. But this video is, I just want to emphasize the importance of color and how getting the right mixture can really make your clips look that much more expensive. So check out the before and after here. Quite a large difference there. That's definitely one of those main ingredients. So the image finally syncs. Now let's make that movement feel heavier just without jelly. That means stabilization. So I want to demonstrate on this clip right here. This clip is in desperate need of some stabilization. There is a lot of handshake there in the handheld camera motion. So I'm going to make this as simple as selecting this, taking perspective, and pressing stabilize. Look at the difference here. This is immediately much more stable, and it fits this shot because this shot doesn't necessarily need to be handheld. There's nothing that this shot is gaining, and there's nothing that this shot is communicating with the viewer by making it handheld. There's no emotion that it's communicating. So it just looks better when we're displaying a product here, especially in marketing, if it's just smooth and easy to see. Again, this shot right here communicates something. This shot is communicating that we are inside the vehicle and we're going over a bumpy road. In this case, it's okay to have that bumpiness and that unstabilization there just because it communicates those things. We don't want people to think that every road is perfectly smooth, right? And we're communicating that this car is rugged and that it's tough and that it can go anywhere. Hence the dirt road, hence the bumpiness, right? And it is worth noting, if one stabilization mode doesn't work, you'll always have others to try with. And if you shot in Blackmagic RAW, you also have camera gyro to stabilize with as well. Now that the shots just glide, you got to give your story a spine with some words. So at this point, I had already fit in a voiceover and I had already typed up a script for this ad that I wanted here and developed this voiceover, but it needed some text. And now not everywhere. I was cautious about where I added text, didn't want to overdo it. If you recall, the only text is the text here in this shot. I'll play it a little bit before.
From city streets to mountain passes, it doesn't follow the path. It defines it.
That was something that I wanted to emphasize, was that it doesn't follow the path, it defines the path. That was a hard-hitting point in that script, in that voiceover that I wanted to emphasize, and so I did that with text here. Now, I didn't just add a regular text plus layer, just because I wanted to have a little bit more to the elements here. So in my fusion composition here, I have our media in, this is just the background, right? I have some dust and scratches overlaid, I have some film burns mixed in there. These are these flashing colors that you see. And then I have a background set to black right here, and that just helps create the look for all of these assets here as well. You see flashing on the screen. And at a certain point, these do fade out just because I have a keyframe here on my merge. And because I have a keyframe here set on my merge, I have it so that these fade in as the words are being spoken. Next, after that, I have my text. And so you'll see that one text is a little bit darker, one text is lighter, and that helps create this look right here. Now, you can see I have my text with a circle mask right here, and that is this motion that you see here. It kind of just gives it some detail. It kind of gives it some atmosphere, a little bit more personality than just blank black or blank white text. And don't take this as me saying that this is exactly how you have to do your text and all your marketing or all your videos and stuff like that. It's not. I'm just trying to get this to look characteristic, trying to give it some personality, you know what I mean? And I think I did that here. I have a transform just to scale it up. I thought it looked good. You can do yours however you want, just because words, they guide meaning, but music drives emotion. This is the raw clips with just the voiceover. Now let's add some music. Now music you have to be careful about just because it depends on the feel that you're going with for your video. Not every song is going to work, you know what I mean? So this is a very kind of like true to heart, very down to earth sort of ad. It's more about the stability of the product, I think. And so I found music that I think fits to that. So now I'm going to leave the voiceover on with the music.
Every journey leaves its mark.
One thing that's important to do when you find the right track for your video or for your ad or whatever you're making, you want to cut on the music beats. So in DaVinci Resolve, to do that, you want to select your music thing right here, your music layer, right click and press show music beats. And when you check that, it'll think about it for a second and then it'll add all of these lines you see here on the timeline. And then you can go and cut your video as close to that line as possible. Or like in my case, I'm like less than a frame off. So to the human eye, it looks like it's on the cut. But I'm cutting to the music here. Cut.
Streets to mountain passes. It doesn't follow the path. It
Defines it. Cut. Cutting to the music just feels a little bit more natural. And for some reason, just the human psychology, it just relates to the cut a little bit better. It's definitely a detail you should add in all your videos if you can. But sound effects are what sets the room. So we've established that there's voiceover, there's words, there's music. Music sets the room, yes, but sound effects put you in the cabin. Check this out. This is just a very empty edit without any sound effects. And I was going through watching it, like sound effects are something that definitely need to be added here just because without it, it's not right. Like watching this without sound effects.
Every journey leaves its mark.
Like, no, that needs sound effects. And watching that, you know what that sound is. You just got to be able to find it. So what I ended up doing was I went through and found the proper sound effects for every shot with no music, no voiceover. Just if you're looking at just this shot, what are you going to be adding? And this is actually an exercise that they have you do in film school quite often. I had to do this exercise 2 or 3 times over the course of my tenure in film school, where you have completely silent footage and you have to fill in the sound exactly. So I found an SUV on a dirt road. And then I mixed that with this other sound effect down here, driving on gravel, and you get the combination of the two. Looks a lot better for what it's supposed to be. The next sound effect is right here on this shot. And what's crazy is that I actually use Sora for the sound effect here. Sora now does sound. So I've fed Sora a screenshot from this clip, and it gave me back that clip with the sound effects. I'll show you it. So here's a screen grab from my clip. And this is the raw image that Sora gave back to me with sound. Listen to this. Now, obviously, you can kind of see the car growing here. That's not exactly what it looks like. It's not exactly how it moves, but the sound works. Now, that shot obviously doesn't look great. You know, it could definitely use some improvement. But regardless, the sound is pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to be when seeing this car rolling down this dirt road here. So it works. I added it in, and I think it works fine. Plus, you add in your music there, works just fine. The next sound effect were for this shot, and this shot was interesting to say the least. I'm going to turn on my other layer down here too, just because I have some combinations of sound effects going on. So the car is driving, and it goes into the water, and it makes this splashing sound as it goes. I'll give you a listen. So there's a couple things going on here. It's funny, and I don't know whoever recorded the sound effect. I don't know where they got it. This is actually the sound of a military tank idling. It's just turned on and the engine's going. I'm going to solo just this one for you. You can kind of hear the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba of the engine. So that works as the car is getting closer to the camera here, right? And this clip here is a riverboat with its engine on, and it's breaking through water. So you get this sound. So you kind of get that splashy sound with it. But here's another boat engine sound. I'm going to turn this one on, and here's what you get with the two of them turned on. And notice the timing right as the car's going into the water. Right as it starts making the bigger splashes, that sound kicks in. And when you have everything together, this is what you get. I'm going to mute the voiceover just for the sake of this, just music and sound effects here. Not bad, you know, and watching this as an advertisement, that tracks, that clicks. You're looking at the video, you see this car going through the mud and kicking up a bunch of splashes, works. This one was a little more simple. This is just tires on a gravel road. That might as well be the sound that was recorded in camera. You know, like that looks like exactly it. This next one was very similar to the other one we were just talking about where it goes through the water. There's a big mud pile. It's kicking up a bunch of splashes. So a couple of the same sounds here. We have the boat engine and the other boat engine breaking through water. So as it comes out of the water and is coming closer to the camera, you hear that engine get louder and louder. And as you can see, this level is coming up and up. So that's how that works. And then we cut to our logo. And again, this is purely speculative. This is not a real ad. Land Rover did not contact me or pay me for this at all. I'm just making an ad for their product just for the sake of making an ad. That's it. So one thing to keep in mind when you're deciding on your sound effects and you're building your sound is, for example, like in this case, while the car's rolling down the dirt road, if you can almost smell the dust, you've nailed it. You want to be able to put yourself there. Maybe there's a hawk in the sky, or maybe there's another car coming from the other direction. So you add that into the far right side of your stereo sound. Whatever you got to do just to build that environment and make it sound real, do it. So now you've got the 6 ingredients. Let's A/B the entire thing again and compare the two and look at it one more time. So here's the raw unedited footage again. Nothing very exciting going on here. But here is the full ad with everything put together one more time.
Every journey leaves its mark. The road changes, the weather shifts, but the Defender, it endures. Built to take on the unknown, forged in mud, rain, and time. From city streets to mountain passes, it doesn't follow the path, it defines it. Wherever the drive takes you, the Defender is already there. Land Rover Defender, always along for the ride.
So editing is just raw, permissible power. You can craft this narrative and make people feel whatever you want. And when someone chooses to watch, you're being trusted to steer exactly how they're going to feel. So use it honestly and, well, yes, to make things look cinematic. So the next time you have some footage that you're just like, I don't think I can use this, save this video and come back to it and give yourself a pep talk on what you might be able to do to bring that footage back to life. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please leave a like, comment on this video, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos like this one. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.